Segoli swagwegu, ya wego tu onio da aga, kale London, ganada ya ji, uskane da dwa dalane. Nu uwa uskaji o dwa wenuni u guani gula. Hello, everyone. I call the meeting of London City Council to order here at the United Nation of the Thames facility. Just for those councillors who want to know what I said hello, everyone. Thank you to Oneida and the City of London for meeting together today. At this point, we put our minds together as one. And I'll go to the Chief for introductory remarks.
Okay, thank you, Mayor Morgan. Good afternoon, Mayor Morgan, councillors, and the City of London, and honoured guests. I want to extend a warm welcome to Oneida Nation of the Thames today. We gather a deep sense of pride and honour, recognizing the significance of this historic moment. It is long overdue. The Oneida people have hunted on these lands and as recognized in A Dish with One Spoon and the 1701 Nanfan Treaty, also referred to as the Beaver Hunting Grounds. The familiarity of this territory is one of the reasons why this land was purchased in 1840 for us to settle, and well before London was a city. It is remarkable that our councils are convening for the first time. The passage of 150 years highlights the occasion and the importance of building bridges between communities only kilometers apart. We acknowledge the similarities between our councils, but also recognize the difference shaped by colonization and genocide. For us at Oneida, reconciliation isn't just a buzzword. It's a key principle for the United Nations Declaration of Rights of Indigenous People. UNDRIP, an international declaration that affirms our right to self-determination and self-government as the original people on Turtle Island. Reconciliation, however, is not a one-way process, but binds two parties in a relationship rooted in equality with reciprocal rights and duties. It's an ongoing journey that requires non-Indigenous communities to build reconciliation into their everyday operations. Our values are rooted in the great law of peace and emphasize unity, equality, and mutual respect for all living beings. They remind us of our connection to the land, the water, and every other. Our meeting today is a testament to these values as we come together in a spirit of cooperation and mutual respect. We understand that addressing systematic injustices affecting Oneida requires more than just talking. It means taking action to create positive changes for generations to come. Today, let's seize this moment as the opportunity to lay the groundwork for cooperation, understanding, and mutual respect. Let's make sure we don't have to wait another 150 years to meet again. In closing, I'd like to welcome everybody to Oneida Nation of the Thames and Yawango.
Thank you very much for your words, Chief. We greatly appreciate them. And let me start off with my opening comments, expressing on behalf of London City Council and the citizens of London our condolences and thoughts for the loss of your community member. Whether people are grieving or celebrating their life, we certainly recognize the contributions that they have made here and will make in the afterlife as well. Our council's meeting together, as the Chief said, is a historic event. But this sort of gathering isn't about just creating a historic event. It's about forging a new partnership together in collaboration moving forward. And as the Chief said, it won't be another 150 years until we meet again, because we have worked very hard, the Chief and I, to make sure that this meeting would happen, and that we are setting forward a new era of partnership between the Council of the City of London and the Council of the Oneida Nation of the Thames. You know, I often think about how at council we give a land recognition each and every time. And here, standing in this space, you know, it takes on a whole new meaning to sit side by side with members of the Oneida community who fight and each and every day work to ask for a true form of reconciliation. I know each and every member of our council is here today committed to that. And for the ones who couldn't come, I know they would want to be here. But we appreciate your kind words. I appreciate, Chief, on a personal level, our friendship that we've been able to establish as we work together on shared priorities. And I look forward to the engagement on those priorities between our councils today. I hope this is also an opportunity, as we shared some food together before the meeting, to get to know on a personal level the members that you're sitting beside. You know, personal connections and engagements are key to building long-lasting and fostered partnerships together. I look forward to today's discussion. I know this will just be the beginning of an ongoing dialogue, and I appreciate, on behalf of City Council, the ability to have this meeting and for your graciousness in hosting our first joint council meeting together. Thank you.
Okay, thank you for that introduction there, Mayor Morgan and London councillors. We're going to do a roundtable introduction. We're going to start with Councillor Hopkins.
Thank you. Oh. I'm Councillor Anna Hopkins. I represent Ward 9, which is in the southwest part of the City of London, very close to the United Nations. Thank you very much for having me.
Hi, I'm Councillor David Ferreira. I represent Ward 13, which is the downtown area and surrounding area. And I'm here to listen and to learn. So thank you for having me.
Suguli Swakweg, Rosalind Nyonget, Atnawal Niwagit Dalot. Hello, my name's Rosalind Antone, and I'm on the elected council here at Oneida, and I'm looking forward to building this relationship with the City of London and the surrounding areas, and and I'm also Turtle Clan, so thank you.
Hello, everybody. My name is Sam Trasso. I represent Ward 6, which is the central part of the northern part of the city. My ward is split down the middle. We have the University of Western Ontario in the middle, and the surrounding neighborhoods. And I'm very, very honored to be here.
Hello, everyone. My name is Steve Lehman. I represent Ward 8. Ward 8 is in the west end of London. On the south of our boundary is the Thames, and it also is on our western boundary, which, you know, I know is of, probably of topics of things that we would share, you know, as we partner in governing both our lands. Thank you very much for your kind invitation for myself and for fellow councillors here today to the Oneida Nation.
Hello, everyone. My name is Sean Lewis. I am the Deputy Mayor and the Ward 2 Councillor for the City of London. Ward 2 encompasses the Argyle neighborhood in the East End, so my borders sort of run along between Highbury Ave and Veterans Memorial Parkway, from Dundas down to Trafalgar Street. So I represent that area of the city. I will say, I want to take this opportunity to say I'm very grateful for the opportunity to be here and join with you tonight and have this discussion. I grew up in Wallaceburg, which is only a few minutes drive from the Walpole First Nation, and I recognize myself the systemic racism and discrimination that were experienced by people of the Walpole First Nation, and I think that it is very important that we move forward in a way that future generations do not have to experience that. And I look forward to our discussion and partnership tonight.
Hello, Sagoli Bojo, Indigenous Cause Aliska Sinaway, and Dojaba Bawadagon. I'm Councillor Pelosa. I represent Ward 12, which is mainly known for the White Oaks Mall area. The landfill's also me. I also grew up not far from Walpole Island in the Courtright-Cronut area, also fully aware of the issues outside Sarnia and the pollution into the different territories, and wanted to say thank you for welcoming us onto your territory tonight to hopefully lay the groundwork of what will be a long and successful relationship.
Sagoli Swagweg, Elizabeth George Antonio Getz, Ogwalini Wagitalo, Onida Agani Wagohunjo. I'm Elizabeth George Antone, and I'm an elected councillor for Oneida Nation of the Thames, and I'm Bear Clan. Thank you.
Hello, everyone. Philip Lee, Economic Development Consultant. I think I live in Ward 13 in London. Is that right? Downtown? Okay, thanks.
Sagoli, good evening, everyone. My name is Sherry Monastersky. I am a member of the United Nation and the CEO for our community and administration. I'm very happy to see all of your faces today and looking forward to forging this new relationship going forward. So looking forward to the fruitful discussion ahead. Thank you.
Hey, Skulis Kogogo, Nadas Lohani, and get Ogwalini Wicket Loda, and the Akani Wigajuk. Chief Todd Cares for United Nation of the Thames, Bear Clan. We are also part of the Haudenosaunee community as Oneida. There's Mohawk, Oneida, Onondaga, Cayuga, Seneca, Tuscarora. So we're all family here. So just a little bit of information on that. We have a population of over 2,000 and a total of over 6,000. 2,000 on reserve, 6,000 total. So we do have a good population in London. So this is kind of why I'd like to have a relationship with London in regards to helping our people in the city. Yongo, welcome to Oneida.
My name is Josh Morgan. I'm the mayor of the City of London. I originally grew up in the Sarnia area, just outside the Sarnia area, and came to London in about 1998 to actually go to university. I just want to say, I know I made some introductory remarks already, but one of the things I wanted to comment on, although I would apologize for the way that I tried to speak the original Oneida language, I felt it was really important, given the importance of the maintenance of that language over time and passing it on to future generations, to have taken the time to have an elder in to teach me a little bit. And I thank Elizabeth for helping arrange that. And that's why I wanted the first words that I spoke as I called the meeting to order, out of respect for the importance of that language and the goal to continue it here. And I look forward to the discussions today, and I will pass it to the next person. Thank you.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Michael Schultes. I'm the city clerk for the City of London. I'm not an elected official, but a member of civic administration and a statutory officer. Thank you.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Deborah Hill. I am from the Oneida Nation, elected councillor for Oneida, and I am Wolf Clan.
Sukoli Sigwik, Tuweza Nunget. My name is Charity Dockstader, and I'm an elected councillor for Oneida, and I've lived on Oneida all my life. And welcome, everyone.
Sagoli, everyone. Satagayo Niungets, Hadnowal Niwagetalodo, Onyata Ak Niwagohonjod. My name is Misty Deleri. I'm an elected councillor for Oneida Nation of the Thames. I too have lived here my whole life. Very prideful community we have here. Mayor Morgan, I was very impressed and honored that you spoke our language when you started speaking. So you won't go for that. And welcome, everyone. I'm so honored to have you all here. You won't go.
Thank you. Good evening to all of you. My name is Jared Pribla. I'm the councillor for Ward 5, which is the Masonville area, the north part of the London. And I just want to tell you, I'm tremendously, tremendously grateful for this evening. And this evening is going to go to the history books. And there's a moment that in 50, 80, 100, 150 years, the students at elementary schools and high schools in the area will be talking about and reading about. So I'm tremendously grateful for this moment and to share it with every one of you. And you will go. Thank you.
Thank you. I'm Councillor Hadley McAllister. I represent Ward 1, which is an East End ward. I just want to say I'm very grateful to be here tonight. I've enjoyed my conversation with Holly. I look forward to speaking with more of you and hopefully forging lasting friendships and partnership between our communities. So thank you.
Saguli Swagwik. My name is Holly Elijah. I'm elected councillor. And I'd like also to thank Mayor Morgan for your words in the language. That's something that we're all struggling to learn again. And I welcome all of you here tonight. And I just want to be mindful that Oneidas do have a large population of Oneidas in London. So they'll be probably part of our discussion. And I do look forward to a lively and frank discussion on some of the issues. Thank you.
Hi, everyone. I'm Peter Cuddy. I represent Ward 3 in London, which includes it's the northeast, and it includes Fanshawe and London Airport. So if you want to fly out of London, you got to fly through my airport. So anyway, I'm originally from Strathroy, so kind of know the area. I know how to get here from Strathroy, but getting here from London was a little harder. But I know the area fairly well. I may even know some of you. Thank you for inviting us, Chief. Thank you. It's been great to meet a few of you already tonight, and we look forward to some interesting discussions. Thanks.
Yes. Saguli Swagweg, Brandon Dockstader Nyungets, Ogwali Ni Wagi Delode, Onya Daag, Ungwe Huene. So I just said my name is Brandon. I'm Bear Clan from Oneida Nation of the Thames here. I'm an elected councillor. Also just wanted to say Yawango to Mayor Josh Morgan for your words. It was really nice to hear you speak the language, and I wasn't expecting that, so Yawango. I think the work we're doing here today, it reminds me of one of the prophecies we speak about in 7 generations. Our people have gone through warfare, generational trauma, residential schools, and have been lost our language and are almost lost our language and our culture. And they say that 7th generation is going to come back and restore that and be as strong as those before what happened. And I really think about that. And our work here today is generational work, and we're doing it for those next 7 generations and beyond. Yawango. Thank you.
Hi, everyone. My name is Skylar Frank, and I'm the Ward 11 City Councilor. I'm surprised no one said this, but Ward 11 is the best ward in the city. So it's got Old South, Wortley Village, and then South Crest area, as well as the Coves, which is a beautiful area of the city. So if you haven't come by, please do. And I'm excited to build some relationships, listen, and speak with you all in this discussion.
Thank you. Hello, everyone. My name is Councillor Corinne Rahman. I represent Ward 7, which is the northwest part of the city, wrapping around Medway Creek. Very pleased to be here this evening and have the opportunity to listen and learn alongside. I want to say thank you to the Chief and to the Mayor for arranging this meeting. Thank you.
Okay, thanks everybody for that. Good. Okay, thanks for that introduction, everybody. I'd like to hand it over to Mayor Morgan.
Yes, and at this time, we would, on behalf of the City of London, like to offer you and your council a gift of recognition. I have a tobacco to hand out to each of your council members, and I'd like to present you with a white pine in recognition of our growing friendship. So I'll present that now.
Could we get the Oneida councillors to stand? Okay, thanks for that, Mayor Morgan. We do also have gifts for the London City Council.
What it is? Sure. I know what it is, but I don't think everyone knows.
So what we gave the London City Council is the Haudenosaunee Confederacy belt, which represents the 5 nations, which is Mohawk, Oneida, Onondaga, Cayuga, Seneca. And on the end here, we can add more to it, but we're just presenting that to you as one of our Hiawatha belts from the 6 nations.
Thank you, Chief. So the significance of the white pine, when you see the Hiawatha belt, that's what we call it, that's on the plaque here, the middle tree represents the white pine, which is the great tree of peace. So it's part of our great law. And when you hear about our great law, it's how all of our 5 nations came together and we decided to stop fighting amongst each other and we decided to have peace amongst our nations. So that's how our Haudenosaunee Confederacy was formed, and that the symbolic tree in the middle of the wampum that is being passed around, and that's in the picture, that represents peace. And that is the tree of peace is the white pine. So, Yawango.
We are passing the belt around, just have a look at it. If you want to put it up to the light and switch it over to the other side, there's always 2 sides to a story.
Okay, well, while colleagues and friends are able to have a look at the wampum, I just want to explain for members of council who may have been to many council meetings, but nothing has proceeded as we normally would. As you recall, I did ask your permission at the last council meeting, and we passed it unanimously to not only have the meeting here, but to suspend our traditional rules. So as you could probably see, we have nothing on the agenda except for some items of discussion, as well as the passing of the confirmation bylaw at the end, which we will do. We will do it by hand vote when we get to that. If anybody actually wants a recorded vote, we can, but I'm hopefully not expecting that we would need that. Also, in the items for discussion, although it's situated on the agenda in the way it is, if you look at the agenda for the meeting that was passed around and in your folders from the Oneida Nation Council, we're going to proceed with the discussion of the items as they fit there. They're all items contained within our general agenda items. I'll present the first one, and then I believe different members of the Oneida Council are going to present each of the other ones, and we'll proceed with the discussion for each. So at this time, I'm actually going to move to talking about the first item and explain what it is, why it's here, and what we need to do about it. And that's the item talking about the collaborative communication to the Ministry of Municipal Affairs and Housing to request some changes to the Municipal Act. So I'm sure it comes as no surprise that it was very difficult to set up this meeting. There are many provisions of the Municipal Act that, through working closely with the clerk, we either had to ask for exception to or make sure that we had properly interpreted. The Municipal Act is fairly clear in providing clear directions for meetings from municipalities to municipalities, but makes no significant mention of the ability of a municipality to meet with an Indigenous nation, either around their city or in the area. That's problematic from both the perspectives of the chief and I, more so for us because, you know, the chief certainly isn't bound by the Municipal Act, but we are. So what I have is a request of my council to direct me to write a letter to the Minister of Municipal Affairs asking for them to consider changes to the Municipal Act to make it easier for municipalities to meet with Indigenous nations when they so choose. It's not that it can't be done, but there's a lot of hoops we have to jump through, which are not necessarily respectful of the cultural practices and the engagements that we need to have in the way that we've had them. So what I will say is I appreciate the understanding of the members of Oneida Nation Council for the things that we have to do today that are a little bit procedural. And I'm hopeful in the future that this will be a lot easier for cities like London to engage in these sorts of dialogues with some changes to the Municipal Act. So the motion that I'd like my council to consider is that with respect to the facilitation of meetings between First Nations and municipalities, the following actions be taken. The mayor be requested to write a letter to the Minister of Municipal Affairs and Housing proposing changes to the Municipal Act 2001 to better facilitate meetings between First Nations and municipal councils in Ontario, and the mayor be requested to advise via the Ontario Big City Mayors Caucus and the Association of Municipalities of Ontario, advocate to those for changes to the Municipal Act to better facilitate meetings between First Nations and municipal councils in Ontario. And there's an it being noted that I'm gracious to have the chief's support for it being noted that Chief Cornelius of the Oneida Nation of the Thames is supportive of this undertaking. It is on us to ask for this. It is the rules that bound us. It's not on the chief or his council to ask for it, but I do greatly appreciate the support that's been offered in that motion. So I would look to see if there's a member of council who's willing to move that for me. Councillor McAllister, seconded by Councillor Cuddy. And then I'd look to see if there's any discussion on that from my council, or I guess members of your council could provide their thoughts as well as we have an open meeting here.
Okay, thanks for that, Mayor Morgan. Just in regards to the Oneida Council, in regards to supporting that letter to the government, Oneida recommendation is to support this request by London Mayor and Council. If Council supports this request, the Mayor's office will draft the wording and send to our communications officers, send out in a joint statement. Any questions in regards to the Oneida councillors to the recommendation? Any oppositions? Any abstentions? Take it back to our council and discuss. So we're going to be taking this information to our table and having that full discussion, and then we'll come back with recommendations. So.
Then, given that, what I will do is we'll hold the it being noted clause, but we'll apply that after we hear back from them. But I will seek approval from my municipal council today for the motion, and then subject to the consensus process that Oneida has for their support. Once that's received, should it be received, that we would draft that communication at that time with their support. So, any members of my council who need any points of discussion on this before I proceed with asking for a vote of support? Okay, seeing none. All those members of London City Council who are in favor? Any opposed?
The motion carries.
Okay, thank you, colleagues. Really appreciate it. I'll hand it over to the chief to proceed through the next section.
Next we have on our agenda is the economic development. I'll hand it over to Colleen Siri. Or Brandon? Oh, Councillor Brandon Dockstader.
Hello, hello. Oh, there it is. Okay. Sagali Swagweg. Yeah, so one of the portfolios that I've taken on during my second term as an elected councillor is economic development within our community. So we really started by looking at our corporations in the community, which include TTI, OK Limited, Super Bounce, and a few others, and trying to really get things going and in a place where we can start meeting with other like-minded corporations to build partnerships that will co-benefit everybody. So I just put a little bit of information here. You know, the Oneida Nation of the Thames moved here in 1840, and we've always been industrious. We built our own infrastructure, our own roads, schools, churches, houses. We've always been a productive member of Southern Ontario. It's the economic policies of the governments that have not allowed us to fully participate in the economy of southwestern Ontario as a whole, and we're hoping through economic reconciliation to change course, and we're hoping that part of that is a partnership with the City of London to form some kind of economic prosperity for both of our communities. So there's two themes and kind of one question request that we have today. So where there is economic solidarity between municipalities and the most proximate First Nation, both the city and the nation thrive. There are many examples of that, including the City of Vancouver and the Musqueam Nation, Calgary and the Tsuut'ina Nation, Edmonton and Enoch Cree Nation, Winnipeg and the Long Plains Cree Nation, and all of the various other partnerships that are being developed out there. There's a lot of opportunities. And one of the other themes, 3 reasons for the united prosperity of a First Nations and municipality partnership. First of all, lower cost to capital through federally and provincially backed capital for infrastructure and investment attraction. Just look at yesterday's federal budget of the new Indigenous Loan Guarantee Program of $5 billion in loan guarantee for natural resource and energy projects, plus $388 million for strategic partnership initiatives such as a potential London Oneida London Oneida investment destination partnership. So along those lines. The other two, so accelerated project schedules, looking at concurrent permitting, duty to consult, archaeological work, and I know that the City of London is very forward and, with the stage 2 archaeology and how the City of London didn't have to do that, but they did. So it's an amazing step forward that allows our communities to work a lot earlier in the process instead of a lot later. So that's just one example of something that the City of London has done. The other one, increased ESG, environmental social governance emphasis on major investment decisions by international corporations, such as the Volkswagen Power Co. Another example, UNDRIP creates policy pathways for public corporations and municipalities to benefit from Indigenous procurement policies, such as the 30% benchmark set by the City of Regina and the 5% set by the Government of Canada. So today, what we're kind of asking is, what is the City of London's economic development priorities? What are your pain points? How can Oneida join hands with the City of London to make this region the #1 investment destination in Canada? That's our question. And one of our requests is to set up a separate meeting beyond this to develop with our respective corporate arms to allow more time to explore that shared priority areas and foster a more conducive environment for the serious exploration of joint partnerships. We'll go. Thank you.
Thank you. I'll start the response on behalf of the City of London, and I'll invite, of course, my council colleagues to add anything that they'd like to say, as well as I know that the Chief will then invite members of Oneida Nation to comment as well. I just want to mention two really key things that was said. One is the tremendous opportunity that the federal government's investment has made to empower communities like Oneida to have access to the ability to truly partner on a regional scale. And that regional partnership is something that is not new to the City of London. Our Economic Development Corporation was active in the workforce development work, supporting the Economic Development Corporation of St. Thomas in the attraction of the Volkswagen and PowerCo investment. So this sort of thing should not be foreign to us to endeavor on partnering, wider than Economic Development Corporation to Economic Development Corporation, and seeking where we can magnify opportunities as a region that benefit everyone in that region. At the City of London, this council, through its multi-year budget, has directed our staff through Mr. Mather's area to develop a new economic strategy. And in the vision on developing that new economic strategy, it is meant to take a wider perspective than we have traditionally taken on the partners that would be involved in developing that strategy, including partners who have not been involved before, like not-for-profits. I would expect that it should not be a difficult request of ours or a difficult thing for us to get to ensure that there is consultation with Oneida Nation of the Thames in the development of our economic strategy, so that the direction that we're going, we can be informed by the work that you're doing, and we can include things in our strategy that allow us to have that opportunity to partner and magnify both of our potential work to the greater good of the region. And so it's my opinion that although you're asking us to take this back and provide the introductions, what to me that looks like is a conversation with the LEDC about the way that they regionally partner, like they did with St. Thomas's Economic Development Corporation, and of course. All right. And also in the development of our own economic development strategy, we've made a habit, given our commitment to truth and reconciliation, of ensuring that we consult widely on those, and I certainly will take it back to our council to make the decisions we need to make to ask our staff to involve that, and just so colleagues know. We need not have to, and nor is it expected that we would pass motions on all these things today. Much like the consensus-driven model of Oneida's council, we're seeking general consensus and comment on the directionality of this that we would then pursue through our standing committee structure to provide formal directions to our staff, and then communicate with each other the decisions we've made back and forth and shared with each other. So that's my thoughts in response to the request, and I would invite any other member of council who'd like to share their thoughts to go ahead. I'll go to Councillor Trosow if we can get him a mic. Councillor, we're just going to have you do a mic, just because, as per our meetings, we're live streaming for anybody watching.
Thank you for that presentation. It was very meaningful, and I think there's a lot there's a lot that is implicit in what you said that I think we have to give a lot more thought to. And I'll address the mayor. And I'm really glad that you said that we don't have to put forward formal motions and amendments today, and we can save that for another time. But I would like to underline the word consultation, because the word consultation is a problematic word. And the word consultation means a lot of different things to a lot of different people. So I think one of the things that I'd like to suggest, and I hope there's consensus on this, is that part of our ongoing work in this area is we begin by looking at what some of the different meanings of consultation are and what that really means. There is a developing body of case law in terms of duties to consult that go beyond sending a memo saying, by the way, we're doing this. So I just think that I want to underline the word consultation, and I want to give that a lot more thought in our ongoing deliberations. Thank you.
Go ahead, Councillor Pribble. We'll get you a mic. I apologize. You're probably going to be doing a lot of running around today. We're going to have Councillor Pribble next.
Thank you as well for the presentation. And I think based on that we are here all together and the comments you heard, I think that I'm not going to be speaking only on behalf of myself, but I think there are tremendous opportunities that we should be exploring. And when you mentioned the federal budget, the new $9 billion, and if I look at even just for the infrastructure and housing, new money, $981 million plus $5 billion from previous years. I think there are tremendous opportunities. And as was said, let's open the conversation. Let's look at, explore the opportunities, what we can actually do physically, regionally, what makes sense. And the most important, let's tap to the other monies, the federal, provincial, and maximize whatever we can for our region. I do think that's the secret of the success. But if I look around the table that we are here, I'm quite sure we'll all be behind, and let's move this forward, no doubt. Thank you.
Okay, just looking at the table here, any more additions from the Oneida councillors? Any questions, concerns, comments? Nope. Nothing.
Hello, I'm also part of the economic portfolio for Oneida, so I'm kind of going off script. But I think that we do have a lot of opportunity for our future to work together in that we can voice our concerns to the City of London. In like our proximity is getting closer and closer, and yet we feel we aren't as a nation allowed to grow as our people, as our population grows. We are allotted to this little bit of land. So, you know, that is always concerning when I'm driving home, that I keep seeing development getting closer and closer to our community, and that, like right now, we're dealing with the mauling of a community member. And that is, we have such a high coyote rate, and that is, I think, is a result of the development in our surrounding communities in this housing boom, that we were not consulted in any of those issues, and then the federal government allowing all the immigrant to come in, that was not consulted across the board with First Nations communities. So now, you know, this may seem not important, but we are facing, how do we deal with all of these coyotes in our community? You know, we still have our people that walk the roads at night, getting from here to there. Now we have to tell them, you can't do that because of this population. And we were in a meeting all day today dealing with that. And I hope you take that into consideration in your expansion so fast that we are here too. There are 3 communities right here that are experiencing backlash, basically, from the expansion of our neighbors. So again, that's something that needs to be considered when the federal government is saying, yes, there's more money for housing, but there's never any talk of how do First Nations increase their land base? How do we take care of our people? So that's something, it's all economic, environment, it hits everything. So I thought I would start that off with my talk. So y'all want to go?
Okay, thank you for that, Councillor Roslin. Any more questions, concerns from the Oneida councillors? With that being said, like you said, we'll be taking everything back to our tables and discussing further and direction from that, like we said, from our portfolio. So thank you, Brandon. Thank you, Roslyn, for that introduction. Next, we have the Métis Section 35 rights, which I would have Councillor Charity speak to it.
Okay, as already mentioned, my name is Charity Dockstader and I'm elected councillor for Oneida. And what I will be speaking on is Bill C-53. Bill C-53 was developed and tabled without the consultation of Oneida Nation of the Thames and other communities with the Ontario region. This goes against 5 of the United Nations Declaration on the Rights of Indigenous Peoples Act. Furthermore, Oneida opposes Bill C-53 as it recognizes illegitimate organizations like Métis Nation of Ontario and the Thames Blue Water Métis Council that operates within the City of London. Historically, there has never been Métis in this region. Therefore, Oneida does not recognize Blue Water Métis Council or Métis Nation Ontario Charter as having rights, as they are a self-identifying group. And a couple of questions for London City Council and the Mayor. What is your relationship with Thames Blue Water Métis Council? Has the City of London consulted with Thames Blue Water Métis Council on projects that involve the Thames River? And we are requesting a letter of support from the City of London in Oneida Nation's opposition of Bill C-53. Oneida also requests that we jointly develop a duty to consult policy/framework that recognizes the original inhabitants of this land, the Anishinaabe, Lenape, and Haudenosaunee, in the spirit of the peace and friendship treaties of the Dish with One Spoon and the Truro Gaswentha. This would be a measure of protection to our Section 35 rights, but would also protect London from engaging with non-legally recognized Indigenous groups. Yonko.
I appreciate this, and when the chief and I were talking about this initially, this is an area I think for many members of City Council, we are learning a lot more when there are pieces of legislation that don't always directly impact municipalities. We often don't have all of the details or understanding about the impacts on those who may live in our city or our region. To your direct questions about our consultations on work that has gone along the Thames River, like the One River EA and that, I'm going to ask Deputy City Manager Cher to just comment on how we do our consultations and the scope that we did, and then I'll make some further comments. I'll bring you the mic.
Thank you. Thank you, Mayor Morgan. We have not engaged with respect to the health of the Thames River or Thames River projects with the Blue Water Thames Métis organization, so that has not been part of our previous engagement. Our engagement has followed the traditional land rights of the recognized people of our region.
Yeah, and so this is one where, again, I feel like our council, and I'm sure my colleagues feel like me, there's lots of learning and understanding to happen here about the importance of the impacts. I think there's some actual questions that our staff can answer about the way that we engage and the way that we would modify our framework in the future. However, I want to look to colleagues who have their own thoughts and questions on this. Go ahead, Councillor Pelosa. Yeah, we'll get you one.
Thank you. Just a point of clarification, back to Councillor Charity Dockstader. Were you asking for our council's relationship with anything that you mentioned, or our individual relation with these organizations?
No, I think it's with the organization.
But as a council or as an individual?
As council.
Okay, thank you. I will disclose that I have personal, but not through council.
Thanks, Councillor Pelosa. Councillor Trosow, you had some comments or questions?
Yes, I think there's a little bit more background information that would be useful to members of London City Council here, and that is for us to understand when we talk about Section 35 rights, what is that? Because I'm not sure. We've discussed that before. Section 35 of the Charter, of the Canadian Charter, says that the existing Aboriginal and treaty rights of the Aboriginal peoples of Canada are hereby recognized and affirmed. And on the face of it, that may not seem as if it has a lot of implications for municipal law under the province. But whatever our rights and obligations are under provincial law, we also have rights and obligations under higher laws. And certainly Section 35 of the Charter is, notwithstanding provincial jurisdiction, absolutely binding on the city. So I would like to suggest that at some point we have maybe a preliminary discussion of what it means for the City of London to be bound, just absolutely bound as a matter of charter law to the existing treaty rights, existing treaty rights. And not just treaty rights, but also Aboriginal and treaty rights. And both of those things mean different things. And I think we need to have an understanding of what that means. And we need to, I think at some point we probably need to do a review of our bylaws and our practices in terms of whether they're consistent with quite a bit of case law has emerged under our Section 35 of the Charter, and I think we need to be cognizant of it. And that's all I'll say now, but I do think it's something we need to be thinking about.
Any other members of council? What I'll say on behalf of my council is, again, this is one where, as you can tell from Councillor Trosow's comments, there are some things that we would have to look into as well as receive some advice on. We probably have, again, a little bit of education to do for ourselves about the concerns, and there may be in our dialogue about this that we can take back an outreach to, and I can do that through the chief, to get a more fulsome understanding about the full range of concerns that you have with respect to the legislation. One of these things, aside from what Councillor Trosow said, is municipalities do have external lobbying arms, but there is, constitutional spheres of jurisdiction, and so I think there's lots of space for the municipality to be having discussions about this, but we're also conscious about our hierarchy within the federation too, and where other levels of government need to make some decisions to alleviate the concerns, and where we can make some decisions to assist as well. So we're conscious of those, and I think we'll take some time to get a better understanding of this. We'll take it back and have our discussions, and our staff here have certainly heard about the desires of members of council to get a little bit more information on that particular section of the charter, as well as the bill that you have the concerns about. So I don't know, Chief, you have anything to add?
I'd like to thank you guys for listening. That is the Métis, like I said, it is jurisdiction within our area, and we don't have no Métis that should not be on our jurisdiction. So just a FYI, an update in regards to we are opposing the Bill C-53 with the Métis. So I'm looking at the Oneida councillors. Anybody have any additions, questions, comments? So that was just the educational piece and letting you know what Oneida's concerns are in regards to moving forward. So like I said, we'll be taking everything back to our council tables and discussing and moving forward that way in regards to portfolios. So thank you for that discussion in regards to the Métis. Next we'll move on to the urban housing update with Elizabeth.
Okay, thank you. Okay. Yeah, and I just want everyone to understand this. Some of these topics might be hard to hear sometimes, but you're getting the real Indigenous First Nations perspective on things, and this is the everyday things that come from our communities, and that's important to our communities. Firstly, I would like to extend our congratulations to the City of London on being awarded the $74 million from the Housing Accelerated Fund. Our community, our First Nations communities, are familiar with the dire need for safe, affordable housing for our region's most vulnerable people, and that's our First Nations people. As Chief mentioned before, we do have a population, a good-sized population of Oneida members in the City of London. We also have a large population of First Nations and Indigenous communities that also come from other areas that live in the city. Given the proximity, Oneida Nation of the Thames has we have a large population. Many of our members are facing homelessness due to various socioeconomic factors that are a dire result of the colonization in the Indian residential school system. I know that a lot of you have been educated on that in the recent years. We do have a lot of members that can't live here, and we need to educate the city on why it's so hard to build a house here. Down here, where we have people who own land, but they're not selling it. So it's not like living in the city where you can go to the realtor and look at a house, you're going to buy it. Here, there's people that own land, people that have houses on land, but most of the time you can't get a mortgage for a house. You have to go through different programs like CMHC, or you can go through BMO and get a partial mortgage, but usually it's only maybe up to $150,000. And as you know, in today's housing market, it's at least $300 a square foot to build a house. So down here, if you're lucky enough to buy land from somebody, it can only be land transferred from an Oneida Nation member to another Oneida Nation member. From that, you're expected to put it in your own laneway, your own septic, because we don't have we don't have the infrastructure that the city has. Your own septic, your own laneway, and your own basement at your own cost. And then, if you get lucky to get a house, get a mortgage, or get help, then you can build that house, and if you want to finish it, you probably have to get another loan on top of that to finish your house. And say you do a nice renovation on your house, off reserve, that's an investment. You know, I'm going to paint my house and watch Love It or List It, and I'm going to get some ideas, sell my house, and I'm going to sell it and give it to the money to my kids and my grandkids. Down here, you renovate a house, it's like throwing money into a pit. It doesn't increase your value of your home or your property. We don't have land tax here, which is one good thing, but at the same time, if you get a house, usually it's going to be passed on to your children. And that could be good, but what if your children want to grow up and go live on the other side of the world or go live somewhere else? Now you have this property here that only an Oneida Nation member can buy. And then those people will have trouble getting a mortgage to try and buy that property. So again, we talked about systematic racism. Again, this is an example of another system that has been put on us that doesn't fit us. It doesn't fit our communities. And this is across all the First Nations, not just here. So, you know, we have members, they can't get a home. We were lucky that we had a philanthropy group, the Imagine Build. They came together and they helped us build some houses out of the kindness of their hearts. We had a nice 3-day build here. I think it was over a weekend. Doug Terry Homes came and built a house for one of our members, and it was volunteer, and we were helping around the clock for the whole weekend, and it was really beautiful to see. So those kinds of initiatives are really great to see when we all come together, but there has to be an understanding that we are at a disadvantage here with our housing and our land. It is not the same. If you see houses that are run down, you know, why don't they fix up their house? Well, because it's not going to be an investment for us. It's going to be throwing money in a pit. Your kids are going to inherit that debt. They got to pay it off, and that's the end of it. So we have members that can't live here, so they're going to London because they want to still be around their families, and maybe they work in London. And as I said before, a lot of our community members shop in London. We go to school in London. We go skating, we go to the movies, you know, we're part of the economy, but it's not, there's nothing really reciprocal that's happening here. We have many barriers that our members face when we're trying to access safe, affordable housing within the City of London. And we just want to know, where does the Oneida Nation of the Thames people and culture fit in the Indigenous homelessness strategy? In regard to the Housing Accelerator Fund, does the City of London have a plan to invest in First Nation specific social housing? It is important to know that Oneida Nation is a member of the Haudenosaunee Confederacy, which culture is very different from other First Nations in the region. With Oneida having such a large population with the city, we would like to have a seat at the table and be involved in discussions on the homelessness strategy and be informed of plans for the Housing Accelerator Fund. So I know that there was a homelessness strategy done with the city, like planning. But again, I know that our urban Indigenous partners are very important to have at that table, but understand that the First Nation communities are just as important, because usually it's our members living in the city that are experiencing the homelessness. Our Oneida Nation would like a seat at the table on the homeless strategy, particularly for Oneida people experiencing homelessness in London. We would also like to request information on how the Housing Accelerating Fund will be directed and allocated to support First Nations experiencing homelessness within the City of London. Thank you.
Thank you so much. I'll make a few comments and provide a little bit of information. I'll start with the Housing Accelerator Fund. So under the parameters of the fund, we were required to sign a very specific agreement with the federal government on how the money could be spent. So as for what we'll be doing with the fund over the next number of years, very easy for us to share what our plans are and how they'll progress over time. Some of the announcements that the federal government made in their most recent budget on building and opening up money for building on reserves particularly, I don't know if it will address all of the challenges you have or some of them, but I think at some point it would be very valuable for us to understand your assessment of that federal investment and how it may or may not alleviate some of these concerns. I know since you put this on the agenda, that announcement was made, and so I'm unsure how things have changed, and I do understand that you probably, even as a council, haven't even had a chance to discuss and assess it. I think we would be very interested in your assessment of how that might change things from the access to, improving and building land and properties on this particular land. With respect to the homelessness strategy, there's a couple of things I'll say. One is the homelessness strategy, particularly geared towards the urban Indigenous population, is the Giwa Kashtad plan. And LOSA has been a lead in that, and they are scheduled to update the plan in 2024. And so I think feedback from Oneida Nation of the Thames into the updating of that plan would be quite valuable, and we can endeavor to follow up and have some conversations about ensuring that a voice is represented there, given members of your community in the urban Indigenous population that may be experiencing homelessness. The other piece is with the whole of community system response. Recently, the system response had a bit of a humbling moment to recognize that of all of the tables we created, the strategy and accountability table kind of oversees it all. Councillor Pelosa and I sit on that. Of all of the tables we created, whether it was the business reference table or the hubs implementation table or the supportive housing table or the evaluation framework table, a table that was missing was an Indigenous reference table. So that was recently created and is in the process of being populated and expanded. So your request to have a voice within the whole of community system response, I think, is a well-timed request, given the new creation of the Indigenous reference table and the desire to have representatives on that. It's certainly, I can endeavor, and I'm sure Councillor Pelosa would be happy to assist in bringing back, that request to the whole of community response to let them know that you have a desire to have a seat at the table. I mean, I know you could do that yourself too, but we're certainly happy to, at least I am certainly happy to support that endeavor, because I think that your request, I anticipate should be a fairly easy one to achieve, and then you'd be part of those ongoing discussions about the implementation of that plan within the City of London. Although we do have allocations for money under the Giwat-Kashtad plan and the Indigenous reference table with the spooling up the whole of community response, we also have the roadmap to 3,000 affordable units within the City of London. And the Giwat-Kashtad plan is part of the roadmap to 3,000 affordable units. So as we talk about homelessness, I don't think it's not just the whole of community system response, which includes wraparound service supports for the most needy, the most high acuity members of the homeless population, but also the general affordability challenges that the roadmap to 3,000 is meant to inform, and the Giwat-Kashtad plan is meant to help update. So I take your ask as not just an ask of the whole of community response, as you did, but for engagement and involvement in the updating of that plan as well, given the scope of homelessness that members of the United Nations who are urban Indigenous might be facing is probably on all ends of that spectrum, and I wouldn't presume it to be one or the other. So, those would be my initial comments. I think there's a number of things that we can pursue out of this and connect you with the right opportunities and the right people. And again, this one felt very well timed to me as you presented it, because of the activity that is now going on. I'd look to members of my council who might want to add something. I'll go to Councillor Pelosa and then Deputy Mayor Lewis. Because I know there's some questions about helping fix up some things. I'm sure there's some ideas about us connecting you with some great people in the home building community who have a number of programs that can support people who need a hand. So go ahead, Councillor Pelosa.
Thank you. Just in response for the comment for the whole system community response for the hubs, I would request that we send them the list of tables, as there's lots of tables to potentially serve at. I'm not going to make the assumption that it would never tell you that your place is at the Indigenous table. Absolutely, that's a spot. But you might have interest in other tables, or even to sit in on the other tables to see how other community leaders, realizing there's 200 partners, are doing things that might be of interest for the knowledge sharing to come back to your community.
Yes, and I'm going to say, both through my role on the planning committee, but also being a London Middlesex Community Housing Board member as well, and some of the work that I've been doing on the housing file in general. I would love the opportunity and from any member of your council really to learn more about the challenges of housing on a reserve, because what you shared, there were pieces of that I did not know, I was not aware of, and I would like to learn more about that, because I think one of the strategies we need to adopt is how we can assist you as a partner community so that there is housing here on your land for your people. I think that is a key portion of that, but I recognize what you were saying as well about you participating in the economic life of London, in the educational life of London, in the entertainment and social life of London. And so it's also not lost on me that we've heard more than one time in the development of our plan that approximately 30% of our homeless population are Indigenous individuals. So in London, of our total homeless population, the Indigenous population within that group is very overrepresented. And I think that speaks volumes to the fact that there is a particular need to address this issue, both on reserve and in our city as well. I will say one of the first two hubs that we did stand up is Indigenous-led by Atlosa, and that hub is up and running, and there are people who are now off the streets and in shelter where they're getting care and support to hopefully stabilize to the point where they can move into housing. We also have, and I'm not sure what the status of this is, so I may look to Deputy City Manager Mr. Mathers, as I know Mr. Dickens isn't with us tonight, but I believe it was through the Rapid Housing Initiative that a project on Elm Street where we acquired some former school board land was to be an Indigenous-led facility with actually a particular focus on Indigenous women with children, where there was going to be a child care facility provided in site and other supports there. And I don't know how far along that project is in its development. I don't know if Mr. Mathers can perhaps expand on that, but I know that this is not lost on us, and it's something that even at LMCH, London Housing, we're aware of as well, that there are Indigenous members across the variety of sites we have in the city. And frankly, we as a collective council today have made some changes to start making those sites better, and we've made some significant investments there, but we've frankly let people down who are in those sites for a long time. There is lots of work to do to bring those back. That needs to include some cultural sensitivity for those individuals within those sites that identify as Indigenous or as other ethnicities, because it's basically been build boxes and put a roof over people's heads with no thought to their quality of life, or not enough thought to their quality of life. So that's something that we're aware of at London Housing and are working on as well. But I would say we are likewise overwhelmed with the housing challenges we have today. It is housing for everyone that is in desperate need right across this region and this province and this country. We need to find out as well how our Housing Accelerator Fund money is going to be spent. We know some of the projects that are coming, but not all of them, and it is an ongoing process. So I think keeping you updated on that is just in the spirit of what we're doing tonight, good partnership, and keeping those lines of communication open. But I would ask if Mr. Mathers can provide us any update on the Elm Street initiative.
I'll say it could be Mr. Mathers, or I know Mr. Dickens wasn't here, but he briefed a number of people. I'm not sure who's best prepared to answer on his behalf.
Through your worship, this is a great example and something that we want to build on through that housing accelerator in our 3,000 unit plan. So in this instance, the city provided land free of charge to a First Nations nonprofit, and provided a design for a building, and then handed that over. So that's a great example of something that could be a model for the future. At this point, that land has been transferred, and that they're underway as far as getting their building permits and so on. So it is something that we think is really exciting, and could be something that we look for in the future for these types of initiatives.
Thanks. And I'll just let people know that when we relax the rules, we're not using all of the titles that I sometimes get. You can just use mayor or Josh or just talk today. So take advantage. It's not every day. I want to make one comment, and then I'll go to Councillor I just want to make sure you were done, Deputy Mayor. Yes, okay. Then I'll go to Councillor McAllister next. I just want to recognize, because when I spoke, I always appreciate Councillor Pelosa, because she's absolutely right. It was not my intent to say there was only one space for you at the strategy and accountability table and within the whole of community response framework. I recognize that members of the community are talented in many different ways and could provide value to any one of the different opportunities, and quite frankly, voices, no matter where they come from, who have talent, thought, and perspective are welcome in all aspects of the whole of community response. So I always appreciate Councillor Pelosa. I'll say ensuring that if I speak in a way that maybe needs to be adjusted or corrected, she's never shy to jump on there, and she's absolutely right. So, Councillor McAllister, go ahead.
Thank you. And to the Deputy Mayor, you stole my thunder a little bit there, because the Elm Street project is my award, and that was something I was going to highlight, so thank you for bringing that up. That's an excellent example of a partnership that I think will really benefit both our communities. And I really just want to echo the sentiment of this discussion in terms of I think there's so much value in having a housing and a homeless strategy by Indigenous for Indigenous. I think we really have to keep that lens. As the Deputy Mayor said, 30% the population, it's overrepresented in terms of our homeless population. And there's a lot of things that feed into that, but I think in terms of both those strategies, we really do have to have those voices at the table, because those are very unique circumstances in terms of the supports that have to go into that. even with ALOSA, it's impressive in terms of the first 2 hubs to see one of them focus solely on Indigenous. And I really do applaud their efforts for highlighting that. So I appreciate the work that's been done to date, and I look forward to hopefully having more collaboration in the future. Thanks.
I have 2 more speakers from my council, but Councillor Frank was first. Sorry, Councillor Pribble, she waved her hand, and then you'll be next.
Thank you. Yes, I really appreciate this conversation, the question. In Ward 11, I'm lucky enough to have the Native Intertribal Housing Co-op. Their offices are there, as well as they own 50 single-family homes, 17 townhouses, as well as the 4 Feathers Senior Housing Co-op for Indigenous seniors. And I think that those are amazing examples of a program that really works, again, by Indigenous for Indigenous. And they actually just recently got some money to do renovations, so if you've been by them, they look fabulous. They got new siding on the townhouses. They look really awesome. And I think that's an example of something, hopefully in the future we can see more co-ops. I know that there's not a lot of federal funding out there for it, but that seemed to be really, really successful, and I think it's something that perhaps maybe is of interest to bring back. The other thing I was going to mention is, again, similar to Elm Street, something that I'm really interested in and have had discussions in the past, though, is the city has been procuring various parcels of land and looking at various uses for it. So I think that there's more opportunities with our council to set aside and allocate some land and provide it either at $1 or no cost back to Indigenous partners who want to develop on it. So I'm very interested in that and having that discussion further at this time. I don't know where we are in it with between staff and council, but I do know that we've been able to procure some land and hopefully set some aside within London for urban development for Indigenous partners. So looking forward to that further discussion.
I just want to confirm that our 30% is accurate, because in your encampment by Thames River, there are 12 people and 4 are actually Indigenous. And I would, even though I'm not an expert, I would say 1 or 2 are actually high acuity. But going back to what I already mentioned, I really think that for this year, from previous federal budgets, there is $5 billion and announced of the new $918 million. I think there is a great opportunity for us to get together and at LOSA, we've been funding it through London money, right? So London in terms of the non-Indigenous funding, but why couldn't we do it together or partially? And guess what? If we do it partially, we'll have more money for other initiatives. And I really think that this is again a good thing for us to move forward and explore this opportunity.
I think I'll hand it over to the chief to see if he has comments or maybe comments from your council members.
That's great information. Like you said, that's the first I heard of Indigenous, led by Indigenous in regards to having housing in London already. So I like the discussion going forward. Just looking for any more comments, questions, concerns from the Oneida councillors.
Thank you, Chief. I wanted to acknowledge the $9 billion announcement comment that was made. And I do appreciate that within the federal budget that there has been new monies that have been identified for First Nations or Indigenous peoples within Canada. In particular, though, to housing, of that $9 billion, which is going to be delivered over 5 years, only $918 million is being put towards Indigenous housing. AFN, the Assembly of First Nations, has stated through their study that there is $135.1 billion needed in order to address the shortage of housing within First Nations communities across Canada. So this announcement is actually less than 1% of the funding that is required. Councillor Elizabeth acknowledged and informed everyone of the challenges that our community members face when trying to build houses. Not only are we in a difficult space where we're unable to access adequate funding to build our homes, we're also unable to provide housing through our capital plan as it has been addressed. For our community members. So currently in our capital plan, in order to address the shortage of housing in Oneida, we need to be building 12 houses a year. Right now, we are far from that. And although there has been new monies identified, it's not going to meet address the issues that we have in terms of shortage of housing. So I think partnerships are certainly going to be beneficial moving forward. But I just wanted to give that bit of insight there as well. Thank you.
We do have a question from Councillor Misty.
Just a comment. I just wanted to thank the London City Council for being open-minded and being accommodating and welcoming to us in these areas and these issues. You're welcome.
Okay, thank you for that, councillors. I'm looking for any more questions, comments in regards to the Oneida councillors. One more comment from Councillor Elizabeth.
Thank you. Thank you, Sogweg. Yeah, and just one more comment, like, you know, and another thing too is a lot of members from here work in London, yet, and then we do have a high unemployment rate, yet there's no transportation to London. That's another barrier that we face. You've seen we're close car ride, but that's kind of a long way to walk, and there's no transportation. So just, you know, that's another thing that I just wanted to touch base on, and I think we're going to be discussing that further as well. Thank you.
Yes, let me say one thing. I'm going to go to Councillor Rahman, who had her hand up. I really appreciate your context. If you've done an analysis of the bill, as you gave us that quick reference, I think we would greatly value from that. And if you have anything further you want to share, both Councillor Frank and I work through the Federation of Canadian Municipalities, and when we're advocating to the federal government or doing assessments of their legislation that comes through on behalf of municipalities, you know, sometimes we assess them or gets assessed with a fairly narrow lens and maybe not getting all the perspectives of all the pieces that you know may impact us, but we not realize it. So I think your context is excellent, and the type of thing that I think we would value greatly from, you know, having more of is that ability to understand the impacts and the assessment of those particular bills beyond, you know, the lenses that perhaps we've traditionally assessed them through. So thank you very much for adding that context. It's very valuable. Councillor Rahman.
Thank you. I just wanted to say thank you to Councillor George Antone for providing the summary and understanding some of the components of the challenges for housing to be built on reserve. I had a chance to speak with Mandy Fields this summer when she was working through the Imagine Build, and she was walking me through kind of some of the challenges and processes that she was learning about from the community. And I have to say that I think there was a lot of opportunity to learn from some of those experiences this year through that build. And now that that's happened, I think there's going to be even more opportunity, because I remember talking to her about connecting electricity, for instance, in the area, and how long the timeline that was provided by Hydro One was for that. And so I just wanted to say that I think that there's some shared learnings happening with other partners in the community, and that work was instrumental, I think, in starting to build some of that. I think we as a city can learn from that as well, how to be better partners and what resources and tools we have that might be able to be supportive in those processes as well.
And Councillor Pribble wanted to speak again, which for those who are on the NIO Council, we don't usually allow that, but we've suspended the rules, so clearly Councillor Pribble is taking advantage. I'm sure he will want to have every meeting here in the future. So you get to speak for the second time, Councillor Pribble, at Council, which normally doesn't happen.
No, I'll be really brief, and I just said, and I do realize the $9 billion, and a lot of it went to the children's services and education, and it's under 1%. I do understand that, but there is, in addition to the 918, there is $5 billion sitting of federal money that hasn't been used from previous years, and I don't know any more details about it. But if there are certain deadlines or anything, it would be a shame if we can tap into that $5 billion. That was the comment I was making. Thank you.
I'll just conclude with a comment. One of the things, you know, we have our formal structures as government, but as a council and as individuals, we also are connected with many members of our community who basically care very much about the community. So when you mentioned that, I think it was Doug Terry Holmes came and helped build something, you know, we have a strong home builders association and development community, and I think some of the challenges you face, although obviously there are systemic issues here that need to be corrected through proper funding and legislation, I also think there's some compassion and caring where we, as members of council, outside of our former role as a council, could perhaps, connect opportunities to help with those who have compassion and care in our community and capacity to help. And so I think that there's probably some things that we can do on this particular thing in the short term, where there may be some strong philanthropists and organizations in the city who are looking for a project that they'd like to help in some way and showcase. So I think there's some personal follow-up we can do on this as well. All right. I think I'll hand it back to the chief for the next section.
Okay, thanks for that, councillors, London councillors. It's another great discussion in regards to educating one another into some of the issues that's affecting both communities. Next we have on the agenda is urban office space, which is Councillor Misty.
Sagole, everyone. So the next item we're talking about is the urban office space. So I just want to let everyone know that we do not have direct transportation between London and Oneida for our community members. So it's creating a service accessibility issues for our urban members as well. We have over 1,000 Oneida members residing in London, and we're hoping to build a permanent presence in the City of London to better support our urban members. So we're looking at requesting a permanent office space within Ontario Works for immediate usage. And also we would like then to work with the City of London to develop an Oneida office space that would be incorporated into the London Capital Plan. The office is being built in the northwest and southeast. Some of the services that we would like to include to our urban members are our band reps, as well as wills and estates. And we just feel by building our presence that it will help establish what further needs our community is lacking.
I'll make the initial comments on this. So, and I appreciate that we had a discussion about this earlier, and I'm very happy to hear you start to make suggestions about things that we were talking about, because the Northeast and the South, for the colleagues who the Southeast and the Northwest, what they're referring to is in our capital plan we have the potential to build new multi-purpose community facility centers that would co-locate services. Obviously, as colleagues know, we're dependent upon federal and provincial capital contributions to make those come to fruition, but there are in our capital plan, and there are things that we're working towards. And as we look to partner, and in the past at Stony Creek and Bostwick and others, whether it's a partnership with YMCA or the library or others, when we build our recreational facilities, what we have here is a request from Oneida to consider them as a partner as we build out new spaces, to perhaps find where relevant that they may be a partner in a multi-purpose facility and carve out space within that. I think that's more of the medium and long-term conversation that we can have, because I'll be frank, we're probably not going to build those facilities until we get some support from the federal and provincial governments, which is traditionally how we do it. We're going to continue to plan and design, but we wait for the intakes of those recreational infrastructure plan opportunities as they come around sporadically, depending on maybe federal election cycles. But the more immediate ask of potentially Ontario Workspace is Mr. Dickens and I had a conversation about do we have touchdown space capacity in any of our facilities, and although he was not 100% sure, he thought that within some of our dispersed Ontario Works assets across the city, and as you recall, we decentralized those into various areas of the city. Given our return to work policy and the way that some work from home, some work in person, there may be some additional space that we could carve out within some of those facilities as touchdown multi-organizational use space that Oneida could potentially benefit from on an interim basis until we find some sort of formal partnership. Those are just a couple of the examples of where we could talk and continue the conversation on how we could assist. But what we have here is a nation that has an urban population that they would like to serve, that is significant in the city, and they're looking to partner with us in some way to have capacity to do that. So I think there's lots of opportunities here. This is one where we got to go back and have some considerations about where we could help. I think the request is actually very, very clear. I'll look to colleagues who want to comment on this and maybe share some ideas, and this will be a good one to pull back into our own brainstorming on this and where we could assist. Go ahead, Deputy Mayor, and then Councillor McAllister.
Yeah, so first of all, I would say that if there is touchdown space available at the Ontario Works satellite in the Argyle area, I would be happy to welcome you to my neighborhood. I don't know what our capacity is there, but it would certainly, I would be happy to welcome you and have that partnership there. Beyond that, though, I would say, I know we have a number of agreements. We have shared facility use agreements, for example, with the school boards. We have different community organizations, Lions clubs, Optimist clubs, etc., who have meeting rooms that are available to them on a monthly basis at some of our community facilities. And so maybe in light of the population that's there and the need to start providing some service to them, and I don't know if Ms. Smith has any thoughts about locations, but I know we have use rooms at the East Lyons Community Center, at the Boswick Community Center, and perhaps if it's not a daily office space, and I don't know if this would be a short term, but perhaps there's an opportunity for us to find a partnership where there's a weekly space where every Monday or every other Monday, whatever it is that would suit, might be an option for us to provide some short-term space so that you can be offering some services to your band members until we're more along the further down the road on the midterm and longer term solutions. But our community spaces are well used and well loved, and adding some Oneida representation to those spaces I think would be welcome, and it'd be an opportunity in some cases for the rest of our community to learn as well. So if we're going to pursue this, I would really like to see there be a learning opportunity for the rest of us included too, so that we can learn more. I think that would be an exciting opportunity. Sorry, Mayor Josh. Mayor Josh. Can we ask Cheryl if she's got any comments?
Yeah, we sure can, and then we'll go to Councillor McAllister after.
Thank you very much, and definitely I know my team, along with Elizabeth and John Paul McGonigal, have been coming here and visiting you, and we love hosting you and the great number of families that come from Oneida Nation of the Thames to swimming lessons, our arenas, our pools. So definitely, if there's opportunity for space, I'll bring that back to Mr. Dickens. And then in the long term, I heard very clearly as we go forward with our builds in the southeast and the northwest, we definitely look for partners there. And I think it's some great opportunities. We'll continue to have those conversations. Thank you.
Thank you. One of the things that I was thinking of with this topic, and I'm sure staff could probably speak to it more, but I was thinking in terms of our community resource centers. For instance, I know one of the community resource centers in my ward, like in Glencairn area, which is sort of southeast-ish, there was 3 OW offices that were meant to be staffed prior to COVID, which I don't believe were utilized. So I think we might have some underutilized spaces where we have those existing like shared service agreements, and those might be opportunities where we have 3 offices, maybe we're going to use 2, maybe we could set aside 1 office. So maybe thinking creatively about the spaces and the agreements we currently have in place, and I think that there's opportunity to maybe utilize those spaces better. Thanks.
Great. I wanted to, this was an opportunity when I was asking about shared spaces. I'm not sure how many members of council know. I know the councillors in the areas probably know, but we actually have artwork and specific things from Oneida Nation of the Thames in some of our community centers on display in partnership. There's the Carling Heights Optimist Center has some Oneida Nations work within it. There's also in Lambeth the new welcoming sign that they're working on references the connections of Lambeth to all of the area Indigenous communities, and so it's not just about space, but I think in our spaces, the recognition and the celebration of the talents of Oneida Nations of the Thames community, whether it's this display of their art or a recognition of the history of the area, is opportunities that we have been pursuing, and I think potential to expand in the future as well. So I'm happy to share some of that information if colleagues would like to know where those are and what they could go see. But because sometimes you can just walk by the art and not know that it was done by a member of the United Nations of the Thames community. So there's some good things happening too as well from that perspective. I'll turn it back to the chief. I'm not sure if I didn't see anybody else who wanted to speak from my council. I think some great ideas forwarded and lots of potential.
Okay, thank you, Mayor Morgan and London councillors, for the update. I'm going to look at the Oneida councillors in regards to any questions, comments, concerns. Seeing none, hearing none. We'll move on to the next agenda item, which is the Springbank Dam decommissioning project. I'm going to call on Councillor Roslin.
Saguli, yeah, my other portfolio is the environment, and it's very close to my heart because when I was growing up, we used to go to Springbank and swim in the dam area. We weren't supposed to, but we were all out there. And it's so funny, we would go to the city to have a picnic, whereas we live out here. It's really crazy. But anyways, getting back to this dam. So we recognize your effort to improve the river health of the Thames through your Springbank Dam decommissioning project. These efforts align with our law, the Ganahila, and that is our responsibility to protect the natural systems around us. We were unable to attend the recent January 31st project update meeting due to limited capacity in our environment department. And I have to mention that that department has been growing and growing and has been so busy for working with our nation that I can believe that they were not available. And then there have several queries concerning the Springbank Dam commissioning part. So how will the Springbank Dam decommissioning project impact the overall health of the Thames River? And then the second question we have is, will the decommissioning project have any significant effect on the frequency or severity of wastewater overflow or on the frequency and severity of flooding in Oneida? Is the complete removal of the Springbank Dam within the city's long-term plans to improve the overall health of the Thames? Those are three questions that we're anxious to hear about, and getting our river healthy, because we are downriver, and there's other nations that are on the system as well that are being affected. And I think we pick up more stuff in Chatham, and that hits our community. Well, not our community, but another community downriver, Moravian Town. So there's a few other First Nations communities that are on the Thames River, other than us. But we would like to be able to trust the fish that we catch. What is in there? We living along the river, I grew up going fishing down there, and the best fish that I ever caught was a mullet. I hated eating it, so that's why I hate fish now, but, because we had to eat what we caught. But that was something and that was how my father taught us how to fish. We never had a reel and really nice jigs and all these other things. We had a stone, a hook, and a string, and you stood on the bank of the river, and if you were rich, you had a can on that string. So me and my sisters, we just got into the habit of taking our barbecue and cooking hot dogs and throwing our jigs in the river and going home, because we never caught a fish, which I was thankful for. But there are a lot of people that do enjoy fishing along our banks, and that, I really encourage them to continue that practice. But I would like to know that what they're pulling out of that river is quality, not garbage. And, every time we hear that, or every time there's a big flood, it's like, oh no, don't go near the river. It's going to be contaminated. And although we don't draw our water right from the river, our aquifer, I think is still fed through that. So there are concerns on our quality of water, which hence the boil water advisory here in our community. And, it makes us wonder, how this dam, like why it was built in the first place. And now let's have it protect our future generations and having that accessibility. So I think that's it.
Let me say thank you, not just for the questions, but I appreciate your story and getting to know a little bit about your upbringing. We'll talk afterwards about stories of me and my dad fishing, in which he called cheating, because we'd fish near the outlet of the Lambton Kent Thermal Generating Station, where the fish like to stay year round, because although the ice froze, it was always warm there because of the water outlet. So, anyways, that's aside. Councillor Pelosi, I know, has some context to add on this. The one thing I'll just say really up front is Springbank Dam was never a flood control device at all. There's a Fanshawe Dam, which is a flood control device, but the Springbank Dam was always a recreational dam, and it never had an impact on the downflow flood protection. It never served as a flood protection component. So I know there's lots more to your question, but that piece about how would it change flooding? It won't. It was never a flood protection device. It was a recreational dam that was built for recreational purposes. Councillor Pelosi, I'll have you start, because I'll say the One River EA, which involves our decommissioning, goes all the way back to 2017. So there's a few of us on council who were not around during that time. There's a few of us on council who were around in the term after that. But Councillor Pelosi was there since 2018 and has lots of context that I think she can share.
Thank you. And thank you for your question as we talk about being good stewards of the land for the generations to come. I became involved in this one and at council discussions before even being on council. I would ask too that following this meeting that staff sends the most recent reports for the One River EA to this council, as well as the documents that pertain to the discussion of leaving the dam in place, partial removal versus full removal. The long-term plan was just partial removal to remove the gates and anything that could leak or contaminate the area that's fully removed. It was a cost-benefit analysis of allowing the river to flow and the health come back, realizing there's also some species at risk in the area and not wanting to disturb their habitat, and also doing shoreline remediation and putting in more access to the river. People came out, including anglers who wanted access to the river, especially as it became more healthy, and including some placards and information along the trails of the history of the river and the lands that we're on. So that's within those reports. I'm not sure if Ms. Scher would like to add on to that, as well as she would be able to speak to high water events and any discharge from a partly treated matter. And I think we were down to about 12 kilometers of 11 kilometers of combined water and wastewater to be. We are working through that as it pertains to road reconstruction and digging everything up, and pipes that were together shall be no more together, to make sure that when high water events happen and those heavy rains, that we do have the capacity to treat everything fully. So if Ms. Scher would like to give a comment, as we have a fully informed decision.
Perfect. As we get
discussion.
Ms. Scher a microphone, I'll just, I asked for the numbers on this because I anticipated this was a question. So the reduction of unseparated sewer lines in our downtown and various parts of the city, after the investments we made in this most recent multi-year budget, which included removing another 4.8 kilometers of combined sewer, that'll be a 42% reduction in the remaining declined sewers. And so we're getting down to just a little bit left. But we're also building capacity at the station to mitigate the possibility of those kind of those discharges into the Thames. The other piece that I'll add that I recall from the One River EA that I jotted down was, so this year when we do the tendering on the removal of the gates, as Councillor Pelosa said, but leave a lot of the concrete, the traditional kind of structure of the concrete dam there, we are removing about 175 meters of concrete, as Councillor Pelosa said, along the shoreline to remediate and naturalize those pieces. So although the dam as a structure is only partially decommissioned, there's significant removal of the unnaturalized structure along the shoreline and a return to naturalization associated with the project. And of course, the removal of anything that provides ongoing contaminants into the river, like the steel gates and other things. So, Ms. Scher, I'll let you add context on what are many pieces of things that I know you could probably talk about for a while. So go ahead.
Thank you, Mayor Josh. Thank you, Councillor. I really appreciate this question. The commitment of our team to improving the health of the river is probably top of mind for everybody in my water, stormwater, and wastewater areas. The removal of the Springbank Dam is first and foremost about the health of the river. There was pressure to reinstate it for recreational purposes, but a free-flowing river is a healthier river, and we have seen that in terms of a reduction in total phosphorus, dissolved suspended solids, and other contaminants associated with that backwater that many of us like to swim and boat in at one point, but probably shouldn't have been, given that that water was not a very good quality. And what we're hearing from our partners at Upper Thames as well is that there has been a return of species we've not previously seen in the river in many, many decades, because that recreational dam was in place for 100 years. So we will be going out to tender late this month. We are absolutely thrilled to bring out the information that we shared in the January public meeting and have a staff-to-staff meeting or a staff with elected officials meeting. Whatever you prefer, we can make that connection and bring that information firsthand and walk you through what's going to happen with the dam piece. And Councillor Pelosa was correct. This has no impact on wastewater overflows, and it has no impact on flooding, as this was a rec facility. So anytime there's a high water event, this would have been opened in order to let the water flow out of the City of London and come through your community and ultimately onto Chatham and onto the lake system. I think there's some additional questions and context around the discussion around overflow and bypass, so I'll save my remarks on that piece until members of Oneida Nation of the Thames have posed those questions. Thank you.
I think that's a good initial update on some of the information, but maybe the Chief could see if there's further follow-ups on some of that, because I know we've got lots more we could talk about, particularly with the health of the Thames River and the sewage treatment plant as well.
Okay, another great discussion. I'm going to look forward to Oneida councillors. Any more questions, comments, concerns? Councillor Elizabeth.
Yeah, it's just more of a comment. You know, our fishing season is upon us, and, you know, next time you come to Oneida, I'd welcome everybody to come go down by the river, and you can go see on a beautiful day, especially in the spring, all the people lined up down at the riverbanks fishing with their kids. And, you know, same as Councillor Roslin, you know, I spend a lot of that time with my dad down by the river, and same type of fishing with we had a can, so I guess we were lucky. But, you know, it's one thing to talk about, but if you actually come here and see it, and see the people with their families down there, some people camp down there, and they're fishing on both sides of the river, even with our neighbors in Chippewa. it's really nice to see, and it's a really positive thing to see, and just to understand the impact that the river has on our livelihood and our community. Thank you.
Okay, thank you for that, Councillor Elizabeth. Any more Oneida councillors? Brandon? Councillor Brandon.
Thank you. Yes, thank you, Mayor, for those words. One of the things that we've been really interested in understanding is a robust timeline of the infrastructure projects of the combined sewers. I'm really glad to hear that there's 11 kilometers left. I'm hoping that we can get a more stronger timeline that we can hold the city accountable to, because every time it rains, it's thunderstorming right now. Bypass is going through your systems into the Thames River, and it's coming downstream. So we have to find a solution. It's been taking too long, and I'm hoping that we can work together on this solution. You know, wastewater is a major issue in our community as well. Our systems are at the end of their life cycle, 25-year cycle. And that's not something the federal government is talking about right now in terms of how we get the money to do that. And so I'm hoping, and this doesn't have to be a thing right now that we commit to, but I'm hoping that we can take a joint action on long-term wastewater solutions. You know, I think that's something that we need to go to the federal government. You know, it serves us both, and it helps both of our communities. So, go. Thank you.
Yeah, I just wanted to add a context. Although we do have those unseparated sewers, the more we remove, the easier it is for us to deal with the additional rainwater capacity. And so at the same time as we're removing the sewers, and we know it is on a time frame, given where some of them are, that is difficult infrastructure to reconstruct, we're also increasing our storage capacity. Like, for example, a 6,000 cubic meter tank at the Adelaide pumping station, or Adelaide waste water treatment plant, is being constructed to be able to take overland water flows and store them with greater capacity. So our ability to manage, like the goal here is to stop discharges into the river. There's a number of mitigative measures we can take to combine those if we can't separate the sewers all at once. And also we need to be conscious that we do need the ability to store water and wastewater within those high water events and those intense storm events, because it isn't just the combined sewers that can lead to discharges in the river. So we mentioned a couple of our investments. I think we could get you a more detailed analysis of the upcoming capital investments that all contribute to this the mitigation of those events in the future, and the goal of having them completely eliminated and our full capacity to manage that. I see Ms. Scher nodding. I don't know if that means I don't know if that means I said something right or you need to speak, right, to correct me, but it can be both. Go ahead, add something. Yeah.
Thank you. As part of the invitation to meet and connect and talk in more detail about Springbank Dam, we can also bring a team who can talk about our wastewater operations as well as our wastewater capital plans. So in addition to what the mayor mentioned, we will have a new real-time reporting website up and running very, very quickly. It's in sort of final testing phases right now. We'd love to show you how that's going to work to provide you real-time information. That's still information on something we don't want happening, but it is helpful to at least have that information. We're doing our updated pollution prevention control plan, which is our citywide master plan for how we manage wastewater for the next couple of decades. We've got the new tanks going in at Adelaide, Pottersburg, and Dingman pumping stations, the transfer station that'll let us move wastewater between Vauxhall and Pottersburg during extreme events. And then we're planning a major investment into both Adelaide and Greenway station wastewater treatment plants to expand the capacity for wet weather and all weather treatment as well. So we are really committed to advancing this work. We know it is too slow, but we'd love to sit down and show you where we are and collaborate on some shared solutions as well.
Okay, thank you for those questions, comments, concerns. That leads us right into the next agenda item, which is untreated wastewater in the Thames River. I'm going to call on Councillor Brandon.
Yeah, Chief. Sorry. Sigoli Chief, thank you for that. I'm pretty sure we covered a lot of what we were talking about in that last conversation. I think what I guess I'll leave you with on this is last year CBC reported that over 141 million liters of untreated wastewater was diverted into the Thames River. That was in 2023. You know, and I'm happy to hear that these timelines are moving, and it's just as a youth who's seen this happen for the last 10 years, you know, in my political life here, it's been frustrating to constantly bang on these doors and ask what's going on. And you know, I'm happy to hear that there's this movement. So yeah, I'll go. Thank you.
Let me add, our staff have committed to fully updating you on our capital plans, on where we're headed, what we're going to accomplish in the short term, the assessment of what our capacity is in the future. I think that in our next engagement, hearing your feedback directly to us too, as well as through our staff, is something that I think we would all value on what you think about the direction we're heading. And you know, I know your preference would be, I think our preference would be if we could fix it today, we would, but there's a lot of moving parts, there's a lot of plans. Once you've gotten the full details on that, your feedback and thoughts on it would be greatly valued by members of council as well. So.
Thank everybody for that. Any more final questions, comments? I'm going to look to the whole table. Any final questions, comments, concerns? We have made it through the agenda. Councillor Frankia.
Go ahead.
Thank you. Just kind of going off of that, I was, since I sit on the Lake Huron Water Board, I know that we've had some discussions about having a water pipeline come out this way for clean drinking water, and I know that doesn't fix the untreated wastewater that is going into the river system, but I am just wondering maybe through the mayor to staff, I know that we don't have our Lake Huron Water folks here, but I do know that we have the CAO, who maybe, I don't know if there's any updates on it, but I just thought since it was kind of timely and relevant, if there's any discussion on that at all. I don't know. I'm putting you on the spot. I didn't prep this, so
no.
Sorry to staff,
You
but
see,
just wondering.
Oh, Ms. Sharon and I talked about that potentially coming up in our kind of pre-preparation. I think she's well prepared to answer.
One of the interesting things of being the city engineer, deputy city manager of environment and infrastructure in London, is you get a bonus job with it, which is the CAO of the two regional water supply boards. So I met with Mr. Henry, who is our COO and the director of regional water supply. So this is my CAO hat for the regional water supply boards. And we are well underway on the design side. I know staff have been talking around coordination of the in-community works along with the arrival of the pipeline that's going to be coming from the Lake Huron plant. I know that the Huron board and all of our staff are very honored that you've chosen to join the sort of cooperative family that is Huron. And based on my conversation with Mr. Henry earlier this week, we are doing well on the design side. We have some final integration and coordination to do to make sure that everything is in place on community with all of the funding partners involved. So if there's any specific questions, we're happy to follow up, but I know those conversations are going well.
Before we look to others, there is one piece that I wanted to add context because it came up, and I think we had it on the agenda, but we removed it for time. So I just want to provide just one piece of context. That's on transportation from here into both London as well as other places. The County of Middlesex has funding from the province to run a number of pilot projects on providing transit from surrounding communities of the City of London into the City of London and connecting them. One of their most recent announcements was, Dorchester to South London to St. Thomas. So although, it's great that we meet together, I think there's also a great dialogue that I'm certainly happy to help foster with the warden about talking about their stewardship of that regional transportation piece and the engagements that they have with the province and the desire to expand that and your desire to be a partner in that those future expansions, which I know are dependent upon provincial funding, but they have been, and we've supported them, but they've been quite successful in getting additional funds from the provincial government to provide various transit routes from that benefit our city as well as the surrounding communities by flowing people in the region beyond our just, our transit system is essentially within our city, but they're leading the way on creating a transit system that connects communities outside of the City of London to the urban population centers. So I'm happy to help facilitate that, and I think a conversation with the county would be probably very valuable for Oneida to have as they contemplate their future plans there.
Councillor Pelosa.
Sorry, I'll also just note on that London City Council does have a representative on that. I believe it's Councillor McAllister and Pribble. Okay, perfect. So you got two, double the fun, and double, hopefully, people who can help advocate or bring messages as well, and realizing that we're all in the region and prosperity helps us all.
Pelosa for that. That looks like the final comment question. I do have a couple questions myself in regards to the mayor. I do have two questions. What is the City of London's position on UNDRIP, United Nations Declaration Rights of Indigenous Peoples? And how is UNDRIP being included in the city's official plan?
I wish you would have told me that question was there, because I probably could have got an answer. It's not necessarily the city's official plan, but our strategic plan, which I don't have a copy of in front of me, where we recognize truth and reconciliation and the commitment to foster improved and better relationships with that have essentially fostered the meeting we're having today. I'm not on the spot clear about any reference to the United Nations declaration, and if we haven't made some sort of commitment to that, which I don't know off the top of my head, that's obviously something that we can take back and consider. It would not necessarily be out of alignment with our strategic plan, but we would need to make that commitment if we haven't done so already as a council through a report and a discussion. So I don't know if other councillors have anything to add on that. Councillor Trosa?
Just to say that I think this could be related to our learning and review about the underlying treaty obligations that we have, because it's very related.
Hey, Councillor Hawley.
Thank you. My question goes back to, and I'm in support of what Councillor Sam brought up earlier about having education. In his case, it's about the Section 35. In our case, we need to understand more fully the Municipal Act and the changes that you want us to support, because we don't understand the changes. We have not seen the changes that you want to bring forth. I did some preliminary investigation on the Municipal Acts, is that you don't have a duty to consult, just the province and the federal. So is it around that you want to have seek support for changes to that act, or is it about having to meet with us without all the pomp and ceremony? You know what I mean? So that's my question.
Yes, the immediate concern that I have is the Municipal Act is very permissive in allowing, say, the government of the City of London to meet with the governing council of the City of St. Thomas. It actually has specific provisions that allow that. It's actually silent completely on this meeting, and requiring us to go through a range of our own interpretations of sections of the Act that we would, be looking at applying in this circumstance, or the permissions and exceptions that we would need to grant ourselves from our own rules. I think what I'm looking for initially is your support in our desire to have the province actually recognize in the Municipal Act that it is desirable for municipalities to meet with Indigenous governments and make it permissive rather than silent on that. And so it's not asking anything of you or your nation to change any of the ways that you're doing. It's basically, we are bound by the rules that the province sets on us on how we have to proceed in the meeting. The reason why I got to pass 3 bylaws tonight is because the province basically tells me I have to. And there's a number of other things that I have to do. The fact that it is silent on this meeting, I think is problematic because it certainly doesn't presume that we would even meet or be encouraged to meet. And so that's initially where I'm going on this is I would like to see changes to the Act, much like they have provisions in there to allow us to meet with other municipal governments outside of our borders and our boundaries that we traditionally govern, to give those same permissions to allow us, if we so choose, to go out and meet in this sort of format in a way that doesn't require us to jump through a bunch of hoops. Like just much easier and much more flexible. And I think beyond, obviously we can find a way around all those provisions or we wouldn't be here. The point is we shouldn't have to, right? We shouldn't have to. And this sort of thing, I think, should be encouraged where nations like yours desire to have these meetings, right? The restriction shouldn't be this long-term historical framework that we're required to operate within and then ask you to accommodate through parts of this meeting simply because it's always there and it was never contemplated that a meeting like this, would happen. So that's what I'm essentially going for initially. I think it's both permission. Can we find a way to do it? For sure we can. Should we have to? No, it should be very easy for us to meet together without us having to ask you to engage in part of our procedural processes or to have to jump through a bunch of hoops ourselves to be able to come here and have a meeting like this and have this frank, honest, and very valuable dialogue.
Okay, thank you for the update, Councillor Morgan. Mayor Morgan, sorry about that. Any more questions, comments in regards to Oneida councillors? Councillor Misty? Councillor Misty?
Sagoli, everyone. I think I just wanted to express my gratitude for this meeting. It is a historical event. We are very honored as Oneida Nation of the Thames to be a part of it and working along with you. I heard lots of great conversations and a willingness to work with our nation, so I'm very happy to hear that. Also, I just hope that you felt comfortable and welcomed in our community, and you now have a place here with us, so we can't wait to meet with you again. We look forward to the work that's going to be done between our nation and the City of London. And yes, just wanted to thank you all for coming again. You won't go.
Okay, thank you for that, Councillor Misty. Our teachings is Sagoli, which means hello. Nagitwa, which means see you later. There's no word for goodbye in our language, so it's Nagitwa, which means we'll see you later. With that being said, I'm going to hand it over to Mayor Morgan to close his meeting.
Well, first let me make some comments before, first we're going to do that. We talked about the hoops we have to jump through. First, I got to jump through a few hoops before I can even close and end the meeting. So just for my members of council, and I should make sure we set quorum, right? Good, okay. For my members of council, we have just the confirming bylaw to do for second and third reading. I'm just going to quickly look for a mover and a seconder of the confirming bylaw. Councillor Rahman, seconded by Councillor Frank. All those in favor of first reading? Any opposed?
Motion carries.
Okay, second reading of the confirming bylaw, moved by Councillor Frank, seconded by Councillor Cuddy. Any discussion on second reading? No? Okay, all those in favor? Any opposed?
Motion carries.
Okay, third and final reading of Bill 123, which is the confirming bylaw, moved by Councillor Pelosa, seconded by Councillor Ferreira. All those in favor? Any opposed?
Motion carries.
Okay, with that, we have concluded the items on the City of London Council meeting agenda. Before I adjourn, I just want to make a couple of comments. First, to the members of Oneida Nation of the Thames, and to the staff, and to the chief, and to everybody who made this possible on your end. Yawango, thank you very much. It is greatly appreciated, the efforts that you went through and all of the dialogue that we had leading up to this meeting. To our clerks and municipal staff, as colleagues I've alluded to many times, there were many, many things we had to talk about to make this possible. I immensely appreciate and value your guidance, accommodation, and for all of you to be here today to provide the expertise and answers that we required to facilitate a really valuable discussion. Thank you very much to the members of council who took the time to embrace and come out here and do this, and to the ones who really wanted to and fully support this but couldn't make it here or had to go for other obligations. Thank you for your commitment. And let me just say something personal to the members of the Oneida Nation of the Thames Council. You have friends and a home in London, Ontario. If you want to come and visit us, I know all members of council would love to host you. If you'd like to come and have dinner or meet, get to know each other better outside of this forum, we had that opportunity to share a meal today. I think sharing a meal and getting to know each other further anytime would be great. I know I've already talked about coming out myself to out here again and doing a bit of a tour. I mean, perhaps the rainy day wouldn't have been the best time, but coming out and seeing your facilities, talking with people, perhaps fishing by the river, and then just enjoying some time and a day together here is something that I personally committed to, and other members of council I know might have an interest in. But when you are in and around the City of London and you'd like to get together and you'd like to share a story or share a meal or share an experience or see one of our facilities, right? We talked about wastewater treatment. There's nothing stopping us from giving you a tour of one of our facilities anytime, and I see our city staff clapping at that. They love showing off our assets. Anything you need, we're here to help you with. And again, we appreciate the dialogue today. We appreciate the significance of this gathering together as joint councils. We appreciate your friendship and your honest and frank dialogue about the challenges, issues, opportunities, and dreams that you have and you've shared with us today. And I look forward greatly to the next steps in the building of this transformative relationship, which I value greatly and personally. So with that, and on the side of my council, I'll look for a motion to adjourn the council meeting. Moved by Councillor Cuddy, seconded by Councillor Frank. All those in favor of adjournment? Okay, our meeting is adjourned. I'll turn it over to the chief. Don't go anywhere.
Okay, thank you, Mayor Morgan, and I'd like to thank London councillors for coming out in regards to educating one another. We are, like we said, we are only kilometers away. Thank you for the gift of the white pine. The white pine is known as the tree of peace and symbolizes unity, strength, and harmony. In the Haudenosaunee Confederacy, which the Oneida Nation is one of 6, the white pine is of significance in the Great Law of Peace, symbolizing the union among the 5 member nations and the principles of peace, righteousness, and equality. On behalf of Oneida Council, I want to express our gratitude to Mayor Josh Morgan and his councillors for joining us here today. Your presence here signifies a new chapter in our shared history, one filled with hope and optimism for the future, including the flying of a Oneida Nation flag at City Hall. Let us keep this conversation going and commit to reconvening in the fall. Yawango, London councillors, Nagitwa. Before I do close, I'd like to stop the media before I do my Ganahela Duxla. You don't have to leave, you can just stop it. Swari hosios jinata otuga widakwa. Agigo oskaji atwane noni on kanagula.